Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about No, I'm Not Human. So this is a indie game on Steam, and it's kind of horror themed. And the basis of the game is essentially that you're a guy living in your house, and your neighbor comes over and says there's weird things happening, and that you have to let people into your house for shelter as these weird events unfold. And so essentially what's occurring is that there's this heat wave in town, and also there's these things called visitors which crawl up from the ground and take on the form of human people. And so you have to discern between who's human and who's not, and kind of let the right one in. Honestly, I think a better name for this game is, Visitors or The Visitors or Let the Right One In, because that's kind of what the game revolves around. Saying, no, I'm not human is kind of the very obvious subtext of the game. But in any case, because of the weird art, I really didn't gravitate to this game, so I kind of had to come around to it after a while. And that's kind of part of the mechanics of the game because, the weird faces and aesthetics and weird art are part of the whole experience. It's because essentially, you need to figure out who to trust. And so the game is divided into these night and day cycles, wherein during the day you can talk to your, refugees in your house. You can call your neighbor, order items, and basically, interrogate people and figure out if they are indeed a visitor. And so on the television every morning, they give you a new symptom to identify them by either perfect teeth, bloodshot eyes, hairless armpits, dirty fingernails. And so you have to debate whether or not someone actually is one of these creatures. Because having one symptom, you could write off as, oh, well, they just have, they were up late or they smoke weed. And so obviously they're going to have red eyes. But so you have to discern how many symptoms you would need in order to actually fully kill them or execute them. And so you have a gun, and that's how you're able to do it. I think that's the one thing about this game that does feel a little bit unrealistic, that you can just kill all of your visitors and there's no consequences. No one will, you can shoot someone right next to you and there's no consequence for it. And so basically once you do each inspection or symptom, you can check for one symptom, that'll take one energy. And usually you have 3 per day. And so once you're out of all of your energy, then you have to go to bed. And then you go to the night cycle. So the night cycle, it's really nice. It's the same house, but all the doors are locked. And you can only look out the window. And you can see a whole sub-story of how society is degenerating. How first there's this weird unease. Then there's people in the streets running around. Then there's dead bodies. Then there's a visitor waiting outside. Then FEMA shows in to kill the visitors, and then there's the FEMA people even killing random innocent people who then turn on the FEMA people, hanging them from light posts. So you see the whole degradation of society through your windows. And the thing that you have to do at night is that you'll have a knock at the door, and you'll have a series of 3 to 4, maybe 5 visitors, and you have to figure out if they're human or not, or whether you should let them in. And so some of them obviously are very untrustworthy. Some of them, aren't. So one of them, the full visitor who says, I am a visitor, who's fully transparent about it. The reason you actually need people in your house is that if you have 0 people in your house, or you have an imbalance of visitors to actual real people, then he can enter your house and just kill you, and it's game over. So you always want to be taking in people into your house as much as possible, but also you have to balance that with checking that they're not actually a fake human. And so that's where all the weird, grotesque artwork comes in, because you can't differentiate between the artwork and what these people actually look like. And so it's a very interesting dynamic, and to see how trusting you are of other people. In fact, there are quite a few times where I turned away people just because of the way they looked, because it's like, well, that doesn't look like a real human to me. And I think the worst one I did is the neighbor's daughter. I mean, I saw her before, and then apparently something happens to the neighbor and she comes running. And I thought, oh, Well, the most empathetic, the most sympathetic character, this little girl, obviously, she has to be a visitor. She has to be obviously an impersonator because it says you can impersonate people. And I turned her away, and turns out, no, that was actually the correct individual. So I was like, oh, shucks. I turned away my neighbor's girl after promising that I'd protect her. So yeah, it's a very simple game, very simple mechanics, but the dialogue is great. You know, each character has a certain personality. You know, you have a crypto guy, a weed smoker, fortune teller, this like Australian guy who like sunbathes. Yeah, a very fun cast of characters, and it's a lot of fun because you're never sure exactly who is human and who isn't, and you have to discern from their speech patterns and also again their symptoms. And sometimes they'll have one symptoms or two symptoms, and you think, oh, can I write this off? And usually, you know, taking a picture of their aura or looking at their teeth are the best ways to kind of discern that, because those are the biggest kind of giveaways. Usually, I mean, there's one every day as the progresses. The one kind of frustrating part of the game are the items you have vis-a-vis the, how would I say, the mechanism to save is a bottle of kombucha, and you can only use that once, and then you have to buy it again from the delivery service. And because there's a pandemic going on, the delivery service obviously will only come every 3 nights. So, and you can get other things from them as well, like coffee and other things. So you have to be very strategic with how you order things. And there's also side quests too, like again, taking in your neighbor's daughter, helping a certain character out, you know, saying, oh, can I have your energy drink? And they'll give kombucha in exchange or something. Also, knowing the symptoms, there's also side quests where there's this crazed gun-toting maniac who comes through the neighborhood, and so you have to convince him that you are not infected. So you have to know all the infected signs and, you know, your own status of yourself. And yeah, that's one of the major endings. Is I think most people get is that you'll choose the wrong symptom, even though you think, oh yeah, no, my fingernails are clean, or you know, I have hair in my armpits. He won't buy it for some reason, and you'll end up shooting each other. Another common ending is that, you know, of course, the visitor will just enter and kill you if you have an imbalance of visitors and humans or no humans. And sometimes FEMA will come up and just take random people, and there's nothing you can do about it unless they have a FEMA notice. And then when you get to the end of the game, well, actually halfway through, one thing objective you have to do is there's one guy who tells you have to take in the cat. And so there's one lady who shows up who's clearly deranged, but she has a cat. So you take her in, feed the cat, shoot her because she is a visitor, and then the cat will unveil the cellar. And so the way you actually finish the game and beat the game is at the very end when, you know, the society has collapsed. You have to board up your windows, and you basically take refuge in the cellar. Either you will stay there with the humans and everything will be fine, or if there's a visitor in your group, in the final group, then you will end up being killed by a visitor in that area. And so you all kind of wait it out in the cellar, and everyone kind of just survives. But all the endings feel kind of depressing and apocalyptic in some way. Yeah, it's a very fun game. It's very tight. I don't think I'd play it again, but I really enjoyed kind of getting to the end, grinding to the end, realizing that honestly 90% of the people that actually do come knocking on your door are actually real people. And so that kind of showed I just had very low trust, and plus you can always check them later. So I just thought as soon as you let one visitor in, it's all over. So that's why I was very overly cautious at the beginning. But most people are humans with just very weird art styles and weird faces to make distrustful of. And usually you can tell if someone has 3 or more symptoms, then usually you just have to shoot them, kill them, and even if you do kill an innocent person, it's not a huge repercussion to the story anyway. So it's like, great game, short game, would make a great horror story. Definitely inspired by COVID. I'm not sure if there's a whole genre of COVID games that we can talk about. One of them being The Coffin of Andy and Lele. That definitely kind of had a similar sort of vibe. But no, this is definitely. I mean, it's definitely a horror game, but the tension, the atmosphere, I really actually like that. But I like that. I kind of came into this game expecting a, I don't know, 3 to 4, like a 5 out of 10 experience. But it's actually a really great game. It's a great experience and a great kind of feeling and atmosphere. And not a very super intense story, but something very standard. But you really do get into the shoes of the character. It feels really cool. Anyway, so that's No, I'm Not Human. I think they should have called it The Visitor or The Visitors or Let the Right One In, something. But, it's neither here nor there. Great game. I would actually check it out if you're in a horror theme. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you later.